like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. We got the right stuff. We put the hammer right down. Wanna be like us? You better stick around. If you want it, you gotta prove it. Like we do it, like we do it. Room with your hips and put it down. Stop when the clock hits 13. You've been learning and you're earning all of those hours. You can freak out. 1 in a million. Gonna shine bright and you never go dim. Sing it 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. We got the right stuff. We put the hammer right down. Wanna be like us? You better stick around. If you want it, you gotta prove it. Like we do it, like we do it.
WWE had announced a whole bunch of different matches heading into tonight's Monday Night Raw, the final Raw before Fastlane this Saturday, including an NXT Women's Championship match between Becky Lynch and Tegan Nox. Earlier today, they announced the match between Damian Priest and main event Jey Uso. Neither of those matches ended up happening. There were some late changes to the show, and what we ended up getting tonight, unexpectedly, was an Intercontinental Championship match. We were supposed to, coming into tonight, have a contract signing for a future IC title match between Tommaso Ciampa and Gunther. We did have a contract signing tonight. Little did we know that it would end up being a contract signing for a match that would take place on the very same show. But that is what we got tonight on Raw. We were told that Damian Priest, who was on the show tonight, was not medically cleared, which is why his match didn't happen. Becky Lynch suffered a gash on her arm in her No Mercy match with Tiffany Stratton on Saturday and had 11 stitches in her arm. She was not medically cleared, and so she was not able to defend her NXT Women's Championship, so that match never happened either. That match is going to happen next Monday, though. Tonight, we had Gunther and Tommaso Ciampa. They had 23 minutes all to themselves in the main event for the Intercontinental Championship, and it was yet another in a long line of excellent title defenses by Gunther, who, I will say it now, and I don't think it's much of a stretch really to say this, Gunther is the best champion of any kind on any brand in all of WWE. So no matter whether it's Mondays, whether it's Fridays, whether it's Tuesdays, he is the best champion in all of WWE. And he proves it time and time again. He's there every week. He defends the championship, whether it's television, whether it's pay-per-view, and you can count that every single time he goes in that ring, you are going to get a quality professional wrestling match. It is a fight. It is a battle every time Gunther is in that ring. So tonight was no different, but what was also cool about it was a chance for Tommaso Ciampa, who had no chance of winning. And nobody should have expected that he was going to walk out with the Intercontinental title. But tonight was a chance for him to go out there in the main event on Raw, his very first big Raw main event since being called up to the main roster. And to show up and show people who he really is, because so far he has not really had the chance to show what he can do on the main roster. If you knew him from NXT, and when he was the NXT champion, you know who Tommaso Ciampa is. You know what he can deliver inside the ring. On the main roster, his run has been very underwhelming because he just hasn't had the chance yet. Tonight he had the chance, and I thought that he did an excellent job. Now, is this going to result in a big Tommaso Ciampa push? I'm not saying that that's going to be the case at all, because there was something else that happened at the end of the show tonight. When the match was over, Tommaso Ciampa was being overwhelmed by the members of Imperium, Gunther went to the back. He was being beaten up by Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci when Johnny Gargano's music hit. Now, we have not seen Johnny Gargano on television in several months. He's been cleared. He's been all healed up, whatever his injuries were. They were just waiting for the opportunity to reintroduce him to the audience. Tonight was his reintroduction. And he came out to save Tommaso Ciampa. Of course, the two of them have history going back many, many years. So we finally got the big DIY reunion at the end of the show. Unfortunately, they were running low on time, and nobody told USA Network, hey, this is the DIY reunion. They don't give a fuck. And so right before they were going to hit their big tag team maneuver, USA cut the feed. And what'd they go to? I think they went to Chucky. So they went off the air before we could see them hit some of that tandem offense, unfortunately. But it was a great moment, and I, like probably many other people, have been talking about the hope that DIY would be reunited on the main roster. And my whole thing is, first of all, they're a great fucking tag team. So if you've never seen a DIY match from the old black and gold era, you need to go on Peacock and go look up any of the matches they had with American Alpha or with the Revival. Because those are some of the best tag team matches of the last 20 years. If you're a fan of tag team wrestling, you have no excuse not to go back and check out those matches if you've never seen them before. But it's been so many years. It's been 4 years, almost 4 full years since we have seen DIY together in a proper straight tag team match. Johnny Gargano has been on the main roster even longer than Tommaso Ciampa. Johnny Gargano is not over on the main roster. And I say that as a fan of Johnny Gargano's work. He's not over on the main roster. Tommaso Ciampa is not over on the main roster. Tonight was the most over he's felt, but he was in there with Gunther, who has a knack for being able to go out there and get the crowd invested in his matches and wanting, you want so badly to see that he's going to get bumped off and we're going to have a new champion. Just like the Chad Gable match, tonight it was Ciampa. Next week it could be somebody else. But they're not over at the level that they should be and that I know they can be. So it's a situation where I think the best thing for them is to put the two of them together. And it gives us a great tag team to add to the tag team division. Once they've established themselves as a tag team and they've shown what they can do together, you can always have Tommaso Ciampa or Johnny Gargano go off and have a singles run. But it just never made sense to me, seeing, the way things have been going for the two of them, to not put them back together. Because I think the sum of their parts is going to be stronger than their individual parts. And it will help them get over more. And then eventually, maybe Tommaso Ciampa will have a singles run for himself on the main roster. So I'm very happy that we've got DIY back together. You have any number of teams now that they can work with on the roster. You can certainly, do something with them in the Judgment Day at some point. I was hoping we would get the reunion earlier in the year so that we could get, the beginnings of something with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Now, Owens and Zayn are still together. They're not the champions, but we could very well end up at some point with DIY against Owens and Zayn. You got, on SmackDown, the Street Profits and the LWO, and obviously Imperium, it looks like that's going to be their first opposition. So I'm very, very happy that Triple H made the decision, because this was a Triple H move. This was not a Vince McMahon move. This was a Triple H move that he pushed for, and he got what he wanted. And so now we're going to get to see what DIY can do together on the main roster. So that was a very cool ending to the show, even though the very end got cut off. But we also on the show tonight had the final push for the World Heavyweight Championship Last Man Standing match, which is coming up on Saturday at Fastlane. Shinsuke Nakamura laying out Seth Rollins, counting to 10, showing us what will happen on Saturday, holding up the championship. And Drew McIntyre, the slow burn continues for the heel turn. And I like that they're not just having him do some sort of shock turn, in a tag team match or something at the end of a show. They're taking their time with this. Tonight, we had a little bit of sarcastic Drew McIntyre. But what I like about it is there's absolutely nothing that Drew McIntyre is saying that's wrong. Everything he's saying is right. Everything he is saying is rooted in the truth. And the way I would describe it is he's a sane man living in an insane world. And ultimately, at the end of all this, it's going to drive him mad. And then we'll get the heel turn. But they took another small step in that direction on this show tonight. So the main event, very strong main event. I enjoyed the Gable Gunther match a few weeks ago more than this one, but this one was still very good. And we got the DIY reunion, as I said. The rest of the show, honestly, it was just kind of there. It was okay. It was decent. I'm not going to beat them up too much on the canceled stuff because it was out of their control. If Damian Priest was not medically cleared, then he's not medically cleared. Becky Lynch, I'm sure they were hoping after Saturday she'd be okay, and they determined that she wasn't okay. Shit happens. I mean, that's something that's out of their control. They did the best they could to reset, but outside of that main event, this was not a terribly exciting 3 hours of television. And unfortunately, it looks like the football game is not all that interesting either because the Giants I saw before were getting shellacked. So, yeah, New York sports teams aren't doing very well lately. This is your Monday Night Raw review for the first, I should say, Raw review for the month of October. Monday, October 2nd, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Hit that like button. 400 likes is the goal for Be the Booker later on. Super chats are open. Channel memberships are open as well. If you would like to become a channel member and join
GWO.
The GWO, our little green world order. You see the green names, some of them, on the sidebar. You'll notice a lot of them are no longer green. We've officially dropped below 400 memberships. There were a lot that lapsed. Part of it was the changeover in the month, but there were some gifteds that lapsed, so a lot fell off. So if you want to renew, or if you want to gift, or just become a channel member, you have access to emojis and other little fun features. Go ahead and consider channel membership. Now, let's talk about this open to the Raw show tonight, because the open of the show is a little bit different than usual. We got a cold open, and we got Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who I believe we're supposed to have a match on the show tonight. So there's another match that we ended up not getting, although I will not complain. I will not complain about not getting a Nia Jax match on the show. But Nia and Shayna, they were in mid-brawl on the stage as officials tried separating them. So they took their fight to the ring. Jax was getting the better of it when we had the return of Raquel Rodriguez. Haven't seen her. She's been doing the storyline injury angle since Nia put her and Rhea Ripley out. So Raquel came to the ring and attacked Nia. Raquel accidentally booted Shayna Baszler by mistake, and that allowed Nia to take Rodriguez out. Then we got the return of Rhea Ripley. We knew it was just happening this week. So the women's champion, she missed a few weeks. She was back. She charged. She bolted down to the ring. Double-legged Nia to the mat, started hammering away on Nia as the crowd cheered. Security ran out to break them up. Ripley gave one of them a riptide. He didn't go up for her very well, but she got him up. She muscled him up and slammed him down. Eventually, things got settled down, and they cut to the announcers who were running down the matches and previewing the show. Ripley, though, interrupted them. She got on the mic. She said she wanted to call out the rest of the Judgment Day because she had other business to tend to. Yeah, it's not very often that we get a cold open on this show with the women. So that was something different. I thought maybe they were setting up a four-way match for Fastlane for the Women's Championship, or some kind of Women's Championship match. Unless I missed the announcement late in the show, I don't believe they announced anything. So they still might, even though they didn't tonight, they still might announce something. But as of this moment, I don't believe there is a Women's World title match on the pay-per-view on Saturday. We have a triple threat for the WWE Women's title. Charlotte Flair, of course, Asuka, Io Sky. But right now, that is the only one. So after a break, Ripley was in the ring, waiting for the other members of the Judgment Day to come down. Finn Balor was not on the show tonight, so it was just Dominic and Damian Priest. And they came down to the ring. She said, I'm gone for 2 weeks after Nia Jax took her out, and everything with the Judgment Day starts falling apart. She said that she left her responsibility with one person, and that person disappointed her. That person that she was referring to was Damian Priest. And she got up in his face. She said, I go and you can't handle the job. She said Balor was out after the brawl last week, and Priest can't compete tonight against Jey Uso because he's not medically cleared. She blamed Priest for Dominic losing his NXT North American Championship to Trick Williams because you weren't there like I told you to be there. So she said they have a Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso situation. She said they don't fear the Judgment Day because we're not a threat to them. She said they would try to take the tag team titles away from Priest, or they would try to take the titles away from Priest. And she asked him, what are you going to do about it? He told her, look, you're not saying anything that I don't already know. He said Cody and Jey were coming for the belts, but when
Samoa BRO.
When push comes to shove, hey, Zachariah, thank you for the 1999. Priest said when push comes to shove, he'll push harder. He said, screw Cody Rhodes, screw Jey Uso, and screw anybody who wants to talk about the Judgment Day falling apart. Priest then asked Rhea where Dominic's title was. So she turned to him and told him that she got him a rematch on NXT tomorrow night with Trick Williams for the North American Championship. She said that he could thank her for that. And she said that if he does not regain the title, he should not bother coming home. So Jey Uso comes out with his new music, and he's bouncing up and down. This is what he does now. This is when Jey Uso comes out, right? He does the Jey Uso pose, and they have the wide shot of everybody in the building. They're doing this. All I think about now when I see him and I hear that music, if you saw on TikTok, I don't know who puts these videos together. They're fantastic. It's basically like ex-wrestler in high school. And there was one for LA Knight in high school. And I don't know how they mod these things, but if there was a real video game that looked like this, I would totally play it. I would totally play it and do a sound off gamer on it. But in that LA Knight in high school video, they have Jey Uso's in there with the music. He's like in the gymnasium, and you see him. He's just going like this, right? He just starts doing this. And then in the background, you see LA Knight's getting into it. He starts going like this. It's very catchy. It's very, don't do that again? Okay, I won't do that again. People don't want me to do the Jey Uso thing, so I won't do it. No fucking fun, you people. Let me tell you. Anyway. So Jey Uso comes to the ring. And he welcomes back Rhea. He goes, we've all missed you. Because Jey has a thing for Rhea. He said it looked like there was a new tribal chief on Monday night, and it looks like she has bigger balls than Roman Reigns ever did. Priest said that he's tired of hearing Jey open his mouth. He dropped the microphone. He took a step towards Jey. I did actually, Steven, I did see the Usos in high school. That's the new one. I saw that one yesterday, yes. Yes. I want to see more of them. I hope they do a whole series. I really do. I would watch an entire series of those videos. And I'm not even on TikTok. So if they make their way over to Twitter, I'll watch them on Twitter because I don't do TikTok. Although I am on TikTok, but I don't do TikTok. So now Priest and Jey are face to face. And Dominic tells Priest, look, you're not medically cleared, okay? I got this. Not you. I got this. And he took his jacket off. There was a whoop that ass chant that broke out in the crowd. Ripley and Priest, they left the ring. Jey ducked a punch from Dominic and then super kicked him. And then JD McDonough hit the ring, attacked Jey from behind. Dominic and McDonough, they started working over Uso. Dominic looked over at Priest and said, okay, now you can come in. But Cody Rhodes ran out. He helped Jey clean house. Cody hit crossroads on Dominic. Adam Pearce came out and he made it official. He announced that at Fastlane, it is going to be it's going to be Damian Priest and Finn Balor defending their undisputed tag team titles against Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. So finally, we know what Cody Rhodes is doing at Fastlane. Cody had no match at Payback. And now, we were less than a week away from the pay-per-view and he still had no match. So now at least we know what Cody Rhodes is doing on the next show. At least they came up with something for him to do. A title that he might actually win. Although I'm not expecting it. But yes, Cody finally has a match on the show. Honestly, it's as much an angle, I think, for the Judgment Day as anything else, because they're playing up the whole, the Judgment Days coming apart at the seams. Dominic just lost his title. Now Balor and Priest might lose theirs. That's the story going into Saturday. I don't think the titles are changing hands. The North American Championship now. I'm less convinced about the North American Championship tomorrow night. Now, Trick Williams just won the title on Saturday at No Mercy. And if you watch No Mercy at the very end, you saw Carmelo Hayes, right? He had eyes on that title. There's a story to be told there, a story of jealousy between Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. So I think it would be kind of crazy to take the belt off of him. But you got to remember, Trick Williams was not originally supposed to be wrestling Dominic on Saturday. That was supposed to be Ali. Ali got fired. And so they made the call, Shawn Michaels did, to move Trick Williams into that spot. I'm not sure they really ever had long-term plans, to either put the title on him or to get the title on him so soon. But they had to readjust, and they did. And, for him, it was this great moment. And he actually had a very good match, I thought, with Dominic on Saturday. But it was the line from Rhea Ripley where she said, if you don't get that belt back on NXT tomorrow night, then don't bother coming home. So I'm a little less sure about the status of that championship after tomorrow than I am the tag team titles on Saturday. But again, it's smart, to have the main roster talent on NXT has elevated the numbers. That's why the NXT numbers are up. The NXT numbers are nearly comparable to what AEW Dynamite is doing. I mean, Dynamite is still winning, but the margin has shrunk. So, not surprising when you put people like Becky Lynch on the show, and she'll be back on the show tomorrow night as well. But it's smart, for them to use Raw and SmackDown as a way to build up NXT. Before it was almost like this fortress of solitude. They'd have a commercial for it, but there really was no crossover there. They want to elevate those numbers. They're trying to negotiate contracts and new deals for Raw and NXT. SmackDown's locked in. SmackDown's going to USA next year. Raw and NXT, they're in active negotiations. They're shopping the shows around. It might be a package deal where one goes, the other goes. And so it makes sense that they would try to make NXT as attractive as possible. This is a smart way of doing that. Now on commentary, Michael Cole was pushing the signing of Jade Cargill. This was the same thing they did on SmackDown on Friday. They put pictures up from ESPN last week breaking the news. They were really building her up. Still no mention of which brand she's going to. She claims she knows. She's just not talking as far as where she's going. But they put her over as an absolute star in the making, which, is to be expected. And I'm sure that's exactly what they think. I mean, she is a star in the making for them. But for as much success as she had in AEW, TBS champion, undefeated, 60-0, right? 508 days as the TBS champion. She was very successful. Even though she was wrestling mostly,
Look, everyone, it's Samoa BRO.
Even though she was wrestling mid-card talents, she wasn't in there with Britt Baker and some of the, Toni Storm and some of the top names in the women's division. She had success in the company. What WWE is going to want to do now, they are going to want to push her even harder. They're going to push her even harder because what they want to do now is they want to show that they can make her a bigger star than AEW ever could. It's like a competition now, right? That's what they're going to want to do. Look at the way they handled Cody. Look at the way they handled, forget what happened at the end of WrestleMania. Look at the Cody story. From the moment he came back to the company at WrestleMania, beat Seth Rollins, beat him again, beat him a third time with a torn pec, came back, won the Royal Rumble, headlined WrestleMania. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. So now Jade becomes their second big AEW acquisition and the first of the TKO era. Oh yeah, she had all this success over there. We'll show you what real success looks like. And now they're just going to push her to the moon and, kind of show people, okay, this is how you push someone and make them a star. So she's in good hands. I think her future looks bright as long as her, again, her in-ring credentials will hopefully get better working with the people she's going to work with on the main roster, because clearly she's headed to the main roster. hopefully she will continue to improve, because everything else she has down pat. She can talk. She's got the look. All she has to do is just sort of elevate her game in the ring so that she can go in there for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes in a big pay-per-view match and hang, with the top stars in that division. That's something we never saw her do in AEW. I don't know what her longest match was on the AEW roster. I don't think I've ever seen a 15-minute Jade Cargill match. So that's what I mean when I say she's still behind a lot of the women on that roster, and she's going to have to play catch-up. But they are really, making her out to be the next big thing here. So we had Alpha Academy taking on Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci of Imperium. Kevin wants to know, what if Jade wins the Royal Rumble? Winning the Royal Rumble gets you a championship match at WrestleMania. That I think is too much too soon. Going to the main event of WrestleMania to compete for the Raw or SmackDown version of the women's title, that's just too much too soon. I don't know that she's ready for that. The idea of her beating someone like Becky Lynch, right, one of the biggest names in the company, to get credibility that way and maybe hold the NXT Women's Championship. That's why I suggested that. That's something I could see. What you're talking about is, let's just put the rocket on her and send her to the fucking moon on day one. I think that's too much too soon. But I could definitely see her being in the Royal Rumble. I don't know that she has to win it, though. So Alpha Academy against Imperium. Gable was in control the first few minutes. Imperium, they were in control on Gable after a break without any explanation about what happened. Gable made the hot tag to Otis. Kaiser wanted the tag, but he was very unhappy to find that Vinci was absent from the apron because Gable had knocked him off. Remember what Gunther said on the show last week? He was tired of Vinci's bullshit. He was tired of all of his losing, and he made it very clear to Ludwig Kaiser. He said, he's your responsibility now, right? He's like the parent that doesn't want to deal with the kid. You take him. He's yours now. So Kaiser was none too pleased when there was nobody in the corner to tag. Otis went to town on Kaiser, and Vinci tried to make the save. Otis, though, press slammed him. He hit a caterpillar. He tried a middle rope, fall away slam. Vinci, though, grabbed Otis by the leg. Referee did not see it, and Otis fell backwards. Kaiser fell on top of him. Gable wiped out Vinci with a cannonball as Kaiser hit Otis with a running enziguri, and he pinned him. So the story here was that Vinci was trying and failing to pull his own weight, but at the very end of the match, he came through, and Imperium actually got a win. They don't get very many of those. Gunther does, not these two bumbling fools. So it was nice to see them actually pick up a win here. We got a recap of Becky Lynch retaining her NXT Women's Championship on Saturday over Tiffany Stratton. If you did not see the show, watch the last two matches on that No Mercy card on Saturday, because the NXT Championship match with Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes was excellent, and the Extreme Rules match with Becky and Tiffany was also excellent. So if you watch nothing else from that show, make sure you watch those two main events. We got a lot of great wrestling this weekend. We were very spoiled this weekend between No Mercy on Saturday and then Wrestle Dream last night, which was the stronger of the two shows, but I thought both shows were excellent in their own right. So Michael Cole tells us you might want to look away because Becky Lynch went on social media and she posted a picture of the laceration on her arm. And he said, you might not want to see this, so you might want to turn away. You would think that this woman, her head, she was decapitated and her head was hanging off. It was a nasty gash. I mean, it was an open wound on her arm, and you could see orange shit coming out of it. It looked like peaches. All of a sudden, I was hungry for a fruit salad. But what it was fatty deposit. It was like fatty tissue from her arm that was basically spilling out of the wound. And she got 11 stitches, and that's why she was not medically cleared to wrestle on the show tonight. Backstage, Adam Pearce was talking to Tegan Nox, and they were talking about the bad news, that Becky was not cleared for the match tonight. And Tegan understood. No problem, right? She'll get her match later on. And Chelsea Green interrupted. And Chelsea assumed that Tegan was there to complain and said that she hates people who have the audacity to complain. Says Karen. Chelsea said that Tegan is not championship material, and Tegan asked for a match against Chelsea to find out who really is championship material. And Adam Pearce liked that idea, so he made the match. And Chelsea said that she was going to go talk to management about this. Of course, Adam Pearce, wouldn't he be management? So the match was official for later in the show. We had Cedric Alexander. Look at who they dusted off, everybody. It's Cedric. They got rid of Shelton. I can only imagine what Cedric is thinking. Having to come to work every week, thinking he's probably on the bubble, wondering if he's going to have a job. I'm surprised, honestly, they didn't get rid of both of them. How do you get rid of one and not the other? I mean, they should have kept both. There's talent there. How are you going to get rid of Shelton Benjamin, though? And then keep this guy around, and of course they're going to do nothing with him. Not that I'm advocating that he should have lost his job. It's just how they make these decisions is very weird to me. Very, very strange. It's almost like they just look at a list and it's like darts, you know? You put the fucking blindfold over, pin the tail on the donkey. They're like throwing darts at a board or something. I mean, how are they coming to these decisions? I have no idea. But it was Cedric Alexander against Big Bronson Reed. This did not last very long. Alexander went right at him, drop kicked him. Reed went to the floor, and Cedric connected on a suicide dive. Then he followed that up with a flip dive outside and took the big guy down. Back inside, Alexander went up top. He got caught by Bronson, who pressed him over his head, but he slipped out. Reed, though, wiped him out coming off the ropes with a standing cross body block. Hit a running senton, and then he hit the tsunami splash for the win. And they cut to a shot on the replay of a woman in the crowd who was mortified by this. She was traumatized by this tsunami splash. So I thought that was a great shot. I don't know how they find these people in the crowd. They could always find that one person. Like, to this day, I still wonder, how did they find Angry Miz? If she wasn't a plant, how did they find Angry Miz Girl the night that the Miz cashed in Money in the Bank and beat Randy Orton to win the WWE title for the first time? Because you could not have, I mean, out of every person in the building that night, that's the one person they had to find. And let's say there were 8,000 people in the building that night. How the fuck did they find that girl at exactly the right moment? I still wonder to this day. Maybe she was a plant. See, that would ruin it, though. If I knew that she was a plant, it would ruin the whole thing. I always appreciated the spontaneity of it. We got highlights of last week's Miz TV segment involving Drew McIntyre, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. They followed by McIntyre beating Kingston and then blowing him off when Ivar attacked. Drew just kept walking. Drew could have made the save, and he didn't do that. Yeah, Garfield, shocked Undertaker guy. The thing about shocked Undertaker guy, at least, he was in the front row. So it's a lot easier to imagine in a big stadium like that. That guy is in the front row, so yeah, you can find him. Somehow they found me in the crowd there at WrestleMania 30, right in the corner. I'm fucking laughing at the Undertaker streak being over. But they weren't looking for me. I just happened to end up in the shot. It's a lot easier to figure that they would find him in the front row, though. So we come back live. Adam Pearce is in the back. He's on the phone. I would love to know who he's on the phone with. Is he on the phone with Vince McMahon? Is he on the phone with his pastor? I mean, who's he on the phone with? I don't know. Drew McIntyre approached. He told Pearce, "I'm not going to be on Miz TV tonight as advertised." As if they didn't advertise enough shit that didn't happen. He's like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that segment." And Pearce says, "Well, it was Miz's request. Miz wanted to give you an open forum." And McIntyre got all sarcastic and said, "Oh, Miz requested it, then I'm absolutely not doing it." So Pearce said that he would let Miz know, and then he asked Drew, he goes, "Drew, it might not be my place, but everything okay with you?" It's like, things feel a little off with you lately. And McIntyre assumed that he was talking about him not doing the right thing last week. And he said that he doesn't remember anybody doing the right thing when he was being beaten down by the bloodline. He's got a point. I tell you, the best heel turns are the ones where the heel, their rationale for why they did what they did makes sense. It's the Chris Jericho thing from 2008. Why do you cheer for this guy? Well, Shawn Michaels, he's a liar. He's lying to you. He's feigning an injury. And yet you people cheer for him when he comes out here. I don't understand. Doesn't make sense. Bret Hart coming out in 97 talking about all of the fickle fans here in the United States. Booing Stone Cold or booing him and cheering Stone Cold. When Stone Cold is the one walking around, bucking authority, flipping people off. It's when he told all the American wrestling fans they could kiss his ass, right? He made a lot of sense. So there were no lies in what Drew McIntyre was saying. Then we had a contract signing for what was dubbed as a future Intercontinental Championship match between Gunther and Tommaso Ciampa. Adam Pearce was in the ring, and he introduced Ciampa first, then the champion, who came out dressed up in a suit. The champion took a seat. Ciampa just stood on the other side of the table. He was all wound up. He was all full of energy. He looked like he was ready to just attack. And Ciampa said the difference between the two of them is that Gunther has been served a 5-course meal, many 5-course meals, and has been given countless opportunities since he arrived in WWE, whereas guys like him are served roadkill, and they're expected to turn it into fillets. He said after they do it enough times, then they get their opportunities. He said the match would take place on Raw next week, and he would have his family sitting in the front row to see him win a title that he has dreamed about holding since he was a child. Since he was 5 years old, this man wanted to be the Intercontinental Champion. I also wanted to be the Intercontinental Champion when I was 5 years old. And now I can be. All I have to do is go on WWE Shop. Back then, you couldn't do that. Today, you can be any champion you want to be. You don't have... Why get in the ring and take bumps when you could just shell out $500 and buy whatever fucking belt you want? Look what I got. Although this one was a gift. Didn't pay for that one. Makes sense to me. I don't want to take bumps. Fuck that. You end up like Darby Allin, you take bumps. Still no update on Darby, by the way, after what happened last night. He went to the hospital. He was gonna have x-rays done on his arm after he was slammed on the steps. It'd be a miracle if he doesn't have a broken arm. You can't climb Mount Everest with a broken arm, by the way. So this could put a real crimp in his mountain climbing plans if he's got a broken arm that he's got to rehab now. But anyway, Ciampa said that he would be fighting for himself and fighting for the 5-year-old boy who dreamed of this moment. We got some great fire from Ciampa in this. I mean, he was all fired up and red in the face and intense. So we got some great fire from him. He doesn't get a lot of promo time on this show. So he was going to make the most of the opportunity that he got in this segment, and he did. Gunther is sitting in his chair the whole time. He's listening to what Ciampa has to say. He's looking at him, and he's just smirking and remains seated. Gunther said that it was an official contract signing for the most important championship in this sport. He boasted about being the greatest and longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time and got some applause from the audience for it. Ciampa said that Gunther seems confident for a man whose world will crumble when he takes the title away from him. And Ciampa told him to sign the damn contract. Gunther held up the title. He told Ciampa, this is about as close as you're ever going to come to this title. And Ciampa pointed out that Gunther still had not signed the contract. He was stalling. Ciampa said they didn't have to wait until next Monday. They don't even have to wait until Fastlane. He told Gunther he would face him for the title tonight. Adam Pearce liked that idea. He was very receptive. Gunther picked up a microphone and said, Mr. Pearce, I think he should prove it. And he signed the contract. And Pearce announced that the match would take place tonight. And Gunther reached over the table. He took a cheap shot at Ciampa. Ciampa jumped onto the table and then onto Gunther, who fought him off. And Gunther then he angrily picks up the table and wildly just throws it out of the ring. It looked like it was going to bounce into the front row. Then as soon as he turns around, he gets hit right in the head with an office chair, one of the big chairs in the ring. And so that takes him down. Ciampa applies his Sicilian stretch submission hold. Gunther scrambles to the ropes and he escapes outside the ring. So, as I suspected, the reason that they were being vague last week about when this championship match was going to take place, because I said, if it was going to happen at the pay-per-view, why not just announce that they're going to have their contract signing next week for the match at Fastlane? And they never said that. All they said was they're going to have a contract signing this week for a future championship match. And so that told me they were going to do this on TV, just like they did with Gable at the beginning of last month. It was going to be a television match. And sure enough, they announced that it was going to be a match on Raw next week. Instead, we ended up getting it on television tonight. So this is going to be the second straight pay-per-view now that the Intercontinental title has not been defended. Triple H likes to keep these pay-per-view lineups very tight. And I appreciate that because we're coming off a pay-per-view last night. As great as Wrestle Dream was, and it was one of the better shows of the year, it was still too fucking long. It's like you have these extremes where Triple H doesn't like going beyond 6 matches. 6 is like the magic number. Last night, I think we had 14. We had more than double that number of matches on the show last night. So the sweet spot is like 7 or 8. But he likes to keep it to about half a dozen, and the card's already pretty full. So the reality is there's just really no room on the card to just throw the match on there just for the sake of having it on pay-per-view. If you do Gunther and Ciampa at Fastlane, the second match of the night, 4th match of the night, they're not getting 23 minutes like they got tonight. It's the same thing with Gable last month. They got 20-plus minutes on the show. If they do that at Payback, that doesn't happen. So here, at least they get to main event. All right, this is the second time now Gunther is headlining Monday Night Raw for the Intercontinental Championship. But the reason that we got the match tonight was because of all the lineup changes. They had 2 matches that were scheduled for the show that ended up not happening. And I don't know how late in the day they found out about the Priest match and the Becky match not being able to happen. But that's why we got Gunther and Ciampa tonight instead of next week. Because of all the lineup changes, they just didn't have any other way to fill time. And so they decided to bump the match up by a week. We had Xavier Woods one-on-one with Ivar. Kofi Kingston sat on commentary for the match. He was animated, not Jon Moxley animated the way he was on commentary last night. I didn't hear Kofi Kingston during the match yelling to Xavier Woods, "Fuck him up, Woods! Fuck him up!" We didn't get any of that from Kofi Kingston. There was a great spot where Woods got Ivar on his shoulders. And Ivar is a lot bigger than him. And very slowly he stood up and he had Ivar on his shoulders and everybody cheered and there were people standing on their feet applauding this great feat of strength. And then he dropped him with the Death Valley driver. Later on, Woods tried to powerbomb Ivar out of the corner, but he collapsed and Ivar just crushed him and just fell right on top of him. Ivar went for a top rope splash. Woods moved out of the way. Ivar went for a power bomb, but Woods caught him with an inside cradle, and he pinned him. This was not as good as the Kofi Kingston-Ivar match from a few weeks ago, but this was fun. Ivar attacked Woods after the match, so Kingston got off headset. He went in to try to help his partner. Ivar ended up slamming Kingston on top of Woods, double underhook, and then just dropped him on top of his partner. At that point, Ivar headed up to the top rope, and he hit a giant moonsault onto both men. So Woods wins the match. Ivar, though, gets the last laugh. The Ivar singles run continues. I don't know how serious the injury to Eric is. We don't even know what the injury is. All we know is that he's not medically cleared. I'm assuming it's an injury, not an illness. But they don't tell you anything. They're very vague about this stuff. If it's a serious injury, then Ivar may get a real singles push out of this. If it's only temporary, it may only be for a few weeks. But I hope it continues. And it is going to continue at least one more week. Next Monday, they've already announced we're getting a rematch between Kofi Kingston and Ivar. It is going to be a Viking rules match between the two of them next week. So expect lots of plunder and kendo sticks and various toys being used. Not those types of toys. Get your fucking mind out of the gutter. Well, they don't call it Raw for nothing, right? Michael Cole was in the ring. From that, we go to Michael Cole. And he introduced the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, out to the ring for one final address. He was going to address the audience before Fastlane and his last man standing match on Saturday. Rollins is in the ring, and he introduces himself. Hey, everybody, look, Michael Cole is here. And Cole gets right to it. He goes, Seth, I've known you for a very long time. And I've actually come up with quite a few of your nicknames over the years. And he mentioned the Architect and a few other ones. And he said, here I'm going to refer to you as the Puppet. And this caught Rollins off guard. He was offended, he said. After that great introduction I gave you, you're calling me a puppet. He goes, what show have you been watching? I have been out here week after week asking Nakamura to accept my challenge to a world championship match, and finally he did. And Cole asked him very matter-of-factly, he goes, what are you doing? That's usually the question I have when I see Rollins come out in these outfits that he wears. I'm like, what are you doing? But Cole says, what are you doing? You've accomplished everything. He goes, I get it. You've never been in a last man standing match before. He said, this is one of the most brutal matches in WWE history. But you may very well be days away from your career coming to an end. Why? Why put yourself through that? So Seth takes his goofy glasses off and he turns serious. He says he doesn't know how to put it into words, but he has a question. Looks at Cole, he goes, how many years have you been doing this? How many years have you been on the show? Michael Cole says 26. He's been doing this for 26 years. 1997 is when Michael Cole got his start in WWE. And he goes, how many shows have you missed in those 26 years? He says 2. 2 shows in 26 years. He says that Cole gets it. He's addicted to it. He loves it. He goes, that's what it's like for me in this ring, to be in front of these people. This ring has given me everything. It's given me a roof over my head, food on my table. I met my wife working here. We have a beautiful girl together because of that, because we met here. When you're the champion, you have a responsibility. If this weekend is the last ride, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I left it all in the ring. He says, I will be an example for my daughter. This is the best reason I've got. Not words, just the feeling. It feels right. All of a sudden, we see Shinsuke Nakamura up on the Titantron, and we have subtitles. And he's telling Seth that no one believes him anymore. He goes, did I plan this? Or did you? He says, is your back injury a lie, or is it for sympathy? Do you want the world to feel sorry for you? He says, I can make that happen. So, of course, while Nakamura is on screen talking to Seth, and Seth has his back turned, we hear the crowd is buzzing. Seth has to pretend he doesn't hear the crowd making noise. But that just means Nakamura is coming up from behind him. He attacks Rollins from behind. Michael Cole, by this point, is already back on commentary. I hear his voice. I'm like, wait, I thought he was still in the ring. So he got right back to the announce desk. Nakamura hits Seth with a Kinshasa. And then the video screen Nakamura begins to count as if it were a last man standing match. So he starts counting 1, 2, 3, and he gets all the way up to 7 before Rollins is able to stagger to his feet. So then the real Shinsuke attacks Seth over and over again with a chair. Nakamura then takes a seat, and then Videotron Nakamura begins counting again. Real Nakamura is counting along with him. This was very like Inception here. It was very strange. So he gets to the count of 9 before real Nakamura. He rises and he attacks with knees. He drops Seth back first through an open chair. Another Kinshasa follows, and then real Shinsuke counts all the way to 10. He picks up the World Heavyweight title, and he holds it up high, and he poses with it. And that is the closing parting shot that we got here of Seth Rollins, his bad, broken back, laying on the mat in agony, unable to respond to the count of 10. It bodes pretty well for his chances, I would say, of keeping that title on Saturday. Although, I should say, keeping the title against Nakamura, because there could very well be a Money in the Bank cash-in on Saturday. Would not at all be surprised if at the end of this, Damian Priest attempts to cash in Money in the Bank. I thought the promo was very good. You know, once Seth got serious, and it wasn't just, sing my song and all the other goofy bullshit that he does. When he got serious and he started talking about what this means to him, that's when it got good. And also, it was cool that, he gave Michael Cole his flowers. Because I think a lot of people over the years, myself included, at various points, and for good reason, have shit on Michael Cole. Because at times over the years, his commentary has been absolutely fucking unbearable. In recent years, Cole has, and I don't even know if it's a case where he's gotten better, but he has clearly loosened up and relaxed, especially last year when Vince McMahon went away. It was almost instantaneous, the tone and the delivery and just the difference in how he sounded on commentary. Plus, he loves working with Pat McAfee. So he was working with McAfee last year. He likes working with Wade Barrett as well. But it was like Vince left and he wasn't sitting there micromanaging him on headset. And all of a sudden, it was like a switch got flipped. And I remember the tournament they did a few years ago. It was 2016, 2017. They did the UK tournament. And he did commentary with Nigel McGuinness. And that was an eye-opener as well. Because his commentary was just so different than what you are used to hearing on WWE television. And then they had the Beast in the East special on the network when they went to Japan. Right? That was where they did Brock Lesnar against Kofi Kingston, as I recall. And I think Kevin Owens against Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. And it was a similar thing where it was like, I want to hear more of this guy. How come I don't hear this guy on my television every week? So that great announcer has always been there. It's just that unfortunately we don't always have a chance to hear it. But I think a lot of people have changed their tune on Michael Cole over the years. And, when all is said and done, he's going to put in his 30-plus years, probably 30-plus years, working in WWE. And, he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. And I think he'll end up ranking pretty high on a lot of people's lists. It may not be number 1. But I think you'll see Michael Cole landing in the number 2 or the number 3 spot, all time as far as wrestling announcers on a lot of people's lists. I feel differently about it because I grew up with so many other great voices. There's just so many voices you just don't hear anymore, whether it was a Monsoon or even Tony Schiavone, back in his day. Jim Ross, I'm talking prime Jim Ross from like the WCW days. If you're a little bit older than I am, you might go Gordon Soley, right? It's kind of generational, I think. It depends also on how young you are, how old you are. But it was nice to see him get his flowers here in this segment because the Michael Cole we hear today is very different than the one that we were hearing, I'd say, about 10 or 12 years ago, where I just wanted to fucking put needles in my ears. I wanted to shove cotton balls in my ears when I would when he went heel, and we had to have heel Michael Cole in his fucking booth at ringside. He was absolutely insufferable, but that was a Vince McMahon idea. That was not a Michael Cole idea. So backstage, Becky Lynch showed up with Tegan Nox, and Becky had her arm in a sling. She had her NXT Women's Championship with her. She tells her that when I'm medically cleared, get ready for a fight. And Tegan said, I'll be ready. And they've already announced the match is happening on Raw next Monday. They've only bumped it back by 1 week. Becky turns to go leave, and she runs right into Natalya. And Natty just ignores her. She kind of walks around her, sidesteps her, and goes to Tegan and tells Tegan that, look, we got off on the wrong foot. She says, I respect you, and I'm proud of you. And she said that she'll get a shot at the NXT Championship, and she'll nail it. Right? She's really putting over Tegan Nox. And Natty says, I just wanted to get that off my chest. So Nox thanks her, and Natty leaves. Something is afoot here with Natalya. Oh, the anonymous Raw GM era? Yeah, that's another one I'd like to forget. The coal mine. Yeah, that's what it was. That's right. He called it the coal mine. Jesus. I try to block some of that stuff out. Tegan Nox was in action next. She went one-on-one with Chelsea Green. Piper Niven in her corner. Natalya ran out to her music. Got to play the music first. She came out to her music about a minute into the match because Piper Niven was trying to distract Tegan. So here comes Natty to stop her from doing so. And Tegan knocked Chelsea off the top. Then she went up and hit a Molly go-round and then finished her off with her shiniest wizard and pinned her. And then Natty got in the ring, and Natty was all smiles, and she's raising Tegan's arm. So there's some fuckery afoot here with Natalya. All of a sudden, she's pretending to be Tegan's friend. So, look, I mean, she was supposed to get a championship match on this show. And it made sense that, okay, that match isn't happening. Let's at least get her a win. Because, look, Tegan Nox is getting a title match next week. It's not as if she's really done much to earn it. I mean, I think she won a match, but how often have we seen Tegan on television in the last 3 months? So it can't hurt to let her rack up a few wins first on television. So she racked up 1. She's going to get her title match next week. But she really needs to be visible as much as possible. It was noticeable when she came out for this match. She got no reaction. None. No reaction for Tegan Nox. Why would there be? People need to know who she is. They need to see her consistently on the show every week. Drew McIntyre came to the ring to address the audience. He got in the ring, and he asked, what should we all talk about? A little Cody mockery. McIntyre said he didn't owe an explanation to anyone in the back. He only answers to his fans. And the fans have been with him through all of his ups and downs, all of the firings, all of the championships. The truth is that he was going to stop being the savior and stop getting involved in fights that he did not start. He says, I'm done with it. McIntyre hasn't been making the save, but neither has anyone else, and he called them all hypocrites. He said Cody Rhodes did make the save, but all he was doing was cleaning up his own mess. He feels like he's in the Codyverse. We are all in the Codyverse. He's going to have to get used to it. He's not the only one. We are all living in the Codyverse. But he says, here's the thing. Forgiveness for Jay Uso, is weakness. It is not a strength. So the Miz interrupted. He gets in the ring, and he did not forgive McIntyre for what he did to him last week or for canceling Miz TV this week. McIntyre told him to shut up. Miz said, look, I was looking out for you, but you told me to shut up. And you got the crowd to chant, shut up, Miz. Drew says that Miz wants him to be the bad guy, right? You want me to beat up Seth? You want me to take the title off of him? Maybe screw Jey Uso? He says, that's not how I operate. I rack up wins and I earn title shots. And since Miz is in the ring, I feel like getting another W. So what do you say right now, one-on-one, me and you? Miz says that they're not dressed for a match. Miz is in a suit. Drew is in a skirt. Bobby Heenan would appreciate that line. Miz said that he isn't the Batman of WWE. He's Two-Face. Talking about Drew. Says he plays both sides. Drew warns him and again tells him to shut up. Miz says, I don't shut up. I grow up. When I see you, I want to throw up. And then he went, ugh. I don't know why that made me laugh. Just the way he did that for some reason made me fucking laugh. Because when I see you, I want to throw up. And then he just makes this weird noise in this fucking face. And I'm like, I don't know. This guy's too much. So McIntyre calls him an idiot. Miz says, look, Mama Miz taught me that the bigger man is the one who walks away from a fight, so I'm going to leave. And he walked out. But when McIntyre turned his back, Miz ran right back into the ring, and he hit McIntyre with his microphone. Drew hammered away at Miz until officials got into the ring to basically stop Drew from killing this man. After a break, we came back, and McIntyre was in the ring with The Miz, who apparently was being forced into this match, even though he was not dressed for a match. He was wearing his suit, his shoes, but we had an impromptu match here. This went 3 minutes. McIntyre set up for the Claymore kick, and he stopped. And he turned around, and behind him in the corner was his sword, which for some reason he's allowed to bring a sword to the ring with him every time he... Well, I mean, look, I guess the Berserker back in the day was also allowed to bring a sword, but the Berserker also tried to murder the Undertaker with the sword. You would think that they would ban that shit. He grabs the sword, pulls it out of its case, and he's going to use it. And he used the sword as a weapon. Ref grabs it away from him, and he went to go remove the sword from the ring. But when he did this, McIntyre grabbed The Miz, and, well, actually, he removed the turnbuckle cover in the corner first. He grabs The Miz, and he runs him face first into the exposed buckle. Miz, only moments before this, was trying to undo the turnbuckle pad, and he got caught by the referee. So he, never went anywhere. But McIntyre did this behind the referee's back, and so the story here is that McIntyre is stooping to levels that he would not ordinarily stoop to. He's taking shortcuts now, right? That's what a heel does. So now we're starting to see a different side of Drew McIntyre that we're not used to seeing. Then he hit Miz with a future shock DDT, and he pinned him. When the match was over, McIntyre got back on the mic, and he cut a very sarcastic promo. Took a shot basically at Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. He said, "I've done some serious thinking, and I'm not the same guy that I was 30 seconds ago. I'm sorry for my actions. And now that I said I'm sorry, I'm automatically forgiven. Yeah!" And he drops the mic, and he leaves. What I like about the slow burn here with McIntyre is that, again, there's nothing he's saying that's wrong. There is a lot of truth in what he is saying. You can understand the frustration. You can understand why he would be upset. He was this close from winning the championship last year in Cardiff, and he got fucked over by the Bloodline. And nobody did anything about it. He never got a rematch. So all of a sudden now we're supposed to be so forgiving. If you're on the Raw roster, right? We're supposed to be so forgiving about Jey Uso. How many people did this guy screw over the last few years? He's right. I wouldn't be so forgiving either if I were him. So in the end, though, like I said, he's the only sane man in an insane world, and it's just going to end up corrupting him at the very end. But they're taking their time. They're not going for the shock turn. They're letting the story play out. Now, Jackie Redmond in the back interviewed the brand new NXT North American champion, Trick Williams. I made the comment on the podcast yesterday when I was reviewing No Mercy. Carmelo Hayes just lost his NXT championship. And, he could be main roster bound whenever they're ready for him. Trick is someone who's still green, but he's learning. He's getting better. Noticeably getting better. As great as Carmelo Hayes is, and, he's from the independent scene before he came to WWE, right? The old Christian Casanova. So he's got a lot of experience. He's great. He's just a great wrestler. Trick Williams is going to end up becoming a bigger star than Carmelo Hayes on the main roster. He's certainly going to have a greater opportunity, I think, to be a bigger star than Carmelo will. And the main reason is their size. And he said it in his promo here. He introduced himself. This was Trick's introduction to the Raw audience. He looks into the camera and he goes, "My name is Trick Williams. I'm 6'4". That right there tells you everything you need to know. 6'4". I don't know what Carmelo Hayes is, but he ain't 6'4". And that matters in WWE. Because everything else that Carmelo Hayes has, right? He's a good promo. He's got charisma. But he doesn't have charisma the way that Trick Williams has charisma. This guy's got charisma for days. And he's improving in every facet. Promos, in-ring. But he's got that size that they like. this guy is going to get more opportunities than Carmelo Hayes is going to. It's going to be a harder, steeper climb for Hayes on the main roster than it will be for Trick Williams. I guarantee you, mark my words. And I hope they both have success, and maybe they'll both get over at the same level. But Trick Williams is the one that, believe me, they got their eye on him for that main roster. He says, 240 pounds of muscle. I've got gold around my ears. I've got gold around my wrist. And I got gold around my waist. And he mentioned that he would be defending the NXT North American Championship tomorrow night against Dirty Dom. Dominic approached him. He had Rhea Ripley and JD McDonough with him. And Williams said, boy, you're acting all tough now that you got your mommy by your side. And Ripley told him that Dominic would not be coming alone to NXT tomorrow night. What she didn't tell Dominic here, but she told him off the air, is that if you don't win that championship back, you will be coming alone. So that was off the air. After a break, Jackie Redmond was now out in the arena over near the stage to introduce Cody Rhodes, who came out in his suit, even though he was in his regular gear, his clothes that he wears to the ring earlier. He was back in his suit. You know, if he's not in his suit for longer than like 2 hours, he breaks out in hives. So he's got to have that suit on. He sleeps in that suit, from what I've been told. So he comes out. She asked him if it felt like he had been backed into this tag team match against the Judgment Day by being, forced basically to be tag team partners with Jey Uso. And Cody said he never imagined that he would be tagging with Jey, but it was the Judgment Day who backed themselves into this situation. He said that he heard that the Judgment Day are going to be on SmackDown on Friday night, which they did announce. They're going to be on the show on Friday. That's the final go-home show before Fastlane. And so he said that he plans on being there too, as does Jey Uso. So everybody will be on SmackDown on Friday night. He said that they're going to win the tag team titles at Fastlane, and they're going to come back to what will look like a very different Monday Night Raw. And that was that. This was maybe 90 seconds. They played his music, and he left. So they gave a lot of time to the main event, which was for the Intercontinental Championship. It was Gunther, the ring general, defending the title against Tommaso Ciampa. I looked at the clock from the opening bell. It was 10:35 p.m. So they gave these guys a lot of time through the end of the show. Ciampa is laying in some big hits, trying to send a message to this guy right out of the gate. Gunther grabs the legs. He locks in the Boston Crab. Ciampa rolls out of the ring. Gunther follows him, and he picks up Ciampa, but Ciampa ends up posting him. It's a Thez press on the floor. Gunther rolls back into the ring. Ciampa follows. He tries for the Sicilian stretch, but Gunther gets to the bottom rope, and Ciampa is forced to break the hold. They go to a break, and they come back. Gunther is just chopping the hell out of this guy. And he locks in a choke from behind, kind of like a bulldog choke. Ciampa hits the corner, though, sends Gunther into the buckle face first. Ciampa tries again for the Sicilian stretch, and again, Gunther gets to the ropes. So Gunther had Ciampa up against the announce table, and he was going to go for a big bear paw chop. He's going to chop the fucking shit out of this guy. Ciampa moved, and Gunther slammed his hand on the top cover, the lid of the announce desk, which is just plastic. But he sold hand pain, like he had injured his hand. Ciampa slammed the right hand on the table a few times, and then he tried to get back in the ring, but Gunther pulled him back to the floor, chopped him with his left hand. Because if the right one don't get you, the left one will. Although he didn't have as much oomph, he didn't have as much energy and power behind the left one as he usually does the right. Gunther rolled Ciampa back inside, and when he tried to follow, Ciampa caught him with the Willow's Bell, DDT, and the ropes covered him for a near fall. Ciampa grabbed Gunther's injured hand. He starts kicking it, and then he lowered his knee pad. He charged at the champion, who beat him to the punch with a drop kick. Gunther went for a power bomb, but the bad hand was too painful, so he couldn't do it. Ciampa put Gunther down with a Scorpion Death Drop, and then hit him with a running knee to the head and covered him for 2. Gunther came back with the Dragon Suplex and dropped this fucking guy right on his head. But Ciampa came right back and he applied the Sicilian stretch. Now, this is the third time, I believe, in this match that he has gone for this move. He has tried to put this guy away. Gunther, he's trying to roll out of it. Ciampa locks it in tight. Gunther is screaming in agony. Finally, he gets to the bottom rope with his foot. Ciampa fires away with chops. Gunther threw a left-handed chop, and Ciampa blocked one from the bad right hand. Ciampa was unable to power him up, though, when he tried to pick up Gunther. Gunther powerbombed him. Then he held on. He muscled Ciampa back up, and he powerbombed him again. And then he put Ciampa in a sleeper hold, and Ciampa was fading, and then finally he just went out. And the referee called for the stoppage, and so still your Intercontinental Champion, Gunther, to the surprise of absolutely no one. There's a reason why, if you look in the art here, Gunther, look at the right, you see him there with the title over his shoulder, and then way back behind him, you see little tiny Tommaso Ciampa. Because Tommaso Ciampa was never walking out with the Intercontinental title. So Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, they hit the ring and they put the boots to Ciampa. Gunther, meanwhile, he's done for the night, right? He came, he saw, he won. Now he's going to the back. He's gone. So while his men are kicking the crap out of Tommaso Ciampa, we hear Johnny Gargano's terrible new music. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's legal reasons why they had to get away from the old Rebel Heart, but this new music is just to call it a fucking downgrade. I think it's just an updated version of his old theme, but fuck, man. I mean, there's just no comparison between the two. So anyway, they play his music, and here comes Johnny Gargano. He sprints to the ring to make the save. Gargano spears Kaiser, super kicks Vinci. Wade Barrett said that Ciampa has been looking for Gargano for months, and he finally found him. Gargano played to the crowd a little bit. Ciampa is sitting in the corner looking up. He's got a smile on his face as the two of them see each other. Gargano's in the corner now, and he's getting ready. And I could tell because there's a move that these two guys used to do called meeting in the middle, where one of them would go for a running knee strike. I think it's Ciampa. Gargano would go for a super kick, and their opponent usually was down in the ring on their knees, right? So they're setting up for the meeting in the middle, and then USA Network cuts the feed because they have a hard stop at 11 p.m. The days of the Raw overrun are gone because this show is 3 hours long. This show does not need to go over 3 hours. If your show is 3 hours long, you don't need an overrun. NXT on a lot of weeks will get a 7 or 8 minute overrun. I can understand that. Raw does not need an overrun. Of course, tonight, the one night they did, they cut the show off. So we didn't get to see the meeting in the middle. Right before Gargano was about to take off and hit the move, they went to, I think, Chucky. And so we didn't get to see it. But I will say this, at least Gunther is a very understanding guy. At least he spared Tommaso Ciampa from flying his family, his kids, out to Raw, wherever Raw is next Monday, and sparing them watching him beat the ever-loving shit out of their husband and father. So instead, they got to sit at home in the comfort of their own living room, and they got to watch it for free on TV. They didn't have to be live in the building to watch Daddy get knocked out by Gunther. So he's a very understanding man. As far as Ciampa goes, this was the best match that he's had on the main roster so far. I know, big surprise, him being in there with Gunther. Gunther will give anybody their best match. I mean, if I showed up on Raw next week and said I want a shot at the Intercontinental Championship, I'm pretty sure Gunther would bring me to my best match. I'm pretty sure he would bring me to actually a pretty respectable, decent match. Of course, I'd have to take a chop. He would chop the fucking heart right out of my chest. You would see it laying on the floor. It'd be beating. My beating heart would be sitting on the mat. Because Gunther is that good. Ciampa had a great showing here in this match. My hope is that he really opened up a lot of eyes this week to people who may not be familiar with his NXT work. As far as Gunther goes, what more can I say? Greatest champion right now in all of WWE. Simple as that. So DIY is back together, And I don't know if they'll still do singles matches, if they're going to just become a tag team and that's it. But there are plenty of teams I'd love to see them in the ring with. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, honestly, even though they're also baby faces, that's really the match I want to see at some point. I want Owens and Zayn against Gargano and Ciampa. You give those guys 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a tag team main event, I mean, they'll have every person in every row of that building on their feet by the time that match is over. I guarantee you. So I'm very happy that we finally got the DIY reunion. That was totally a Triple H move. I'm glad he got that push through finally. They made the best of a bad situation with the matches that they, had to bump this week. And we got a hell of a main event. So instead of getting it next week, we got it tonight. The rest of the show, not very exciting. There was it felt like there was just a lot of filling time on this show. It moved very slowly, but I'll cut them some slack because the card got changed at the last second and because that main event was so good. It's hard to hate on a show that has a main event like that. Here's the Twitter poll. 70% thumbs up score for tonight's show. 29.5% thumbs down. With over 730 votes in so far. So at Solomonster on Twitter is where you guys can go ahead and vote in the Raw poll. And let me know what you thought about tonight's show. Did you agree? Do you disagree? Right now, we're right around 350 likes. So we got a ways to go here before we hit Be the Booker. So it's up to you guys. If we hit 400, we'll do it. If we don't, then we won't. Very simple. All right, let's get to your super chats, the ones that are here. It's a little bit of a slow night, but we start here with Jacqueline. Jacqueline Fowler, $12 super chat, says, if John Cena is not facing Stone Cold and LA Knight is not challenging Cody and Roman in a triple threat for the title of WrestleMania 40, well, that is definitely not happening. How about John Cena against LA Knight at WrestleMania 40? I don't really have any interest in seeing it, to be honest with you. Yeah, but, it would be a big match for LA Knight. I would hope they can come up with something else for him to do. John Cena did not have a great match with Austin Theory this year. So, I'm not sure a match with LA Knight next year would be any better. I don't really have any interest in seeing it. Lady Fire Panda, the $20 says, Mr. Monster, I would like to add a name to the should turn heel list. Liv Morgan. I'm a massive Liv fan, but she can only sink in the tag division for so long before you need to change it up. Heel turn could do that for her. I don't even know if you need a heel turn. Just get her in more singles matches. If you don't want her doing tag team matches, just don't have her doing tag team matches. And Fire Panda says, if you were watching on Sportsnet, you did get to see DIY's move. That's right, so fuck USA. Real CSO2, I called it. Cody and Jay against Balor and Priest for the tag team titles. That is the match coming up on Saturday. So instead of the possible 8-man tag involving Owens and Zayn, they're going with the tag team title match instead. Mikey Clayman, does Edge to AEW make Punk to WWE more likely? I don't think so. I don't think one has anything to do with the other. I think if they want CM Punk, they got to weigh the pros and cons, and then they'll make their decision. Whether or not they bring Punk in, I don't think the signing of Edge is going to make a difference. So if he ends up coming in, it's because they want him there. It's not because, we've got to make a splash. They got one over on us, so we got to get one over on them, right? They got our guy, so we got to get their guy. When it comes to Punk and possibly bringing him in, I really don't think that's going to be the deciding factor here. Tyler, there was a CM Punk reference during Seth's promo. I do remember that. Was it Best in the World or was it something else? There was some reference he made in his promo to something. Zachariah says it might just be the 420 clouding my mind, but did they just tease CM Punk during the Rollins segment with the puppet and the manipulator Easter eggs from Punk's honorable ring promo? Interesting. Also, that was the reference. Okay, I was thinking of something else. There was a, you know what? Now that you mention it, was it last week on the show that Rollins had a Best in the World reference? There was a Best in the World reference last week. And I think it might have been in a Rollins promo. So that's interesting. That would make the second week in a row then that Rollins had some kind of old CM Punk sort of throwback or callback in one of his promos. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Orhan, thoughts on Cody's character right now or lack thereof? I mean, it's kind of bland because he doesn't really have anything to do, so there's not much to the character right now, you know? People like him still. He comes out, he gets great reactions. They haven't turned on him, they're not booing him, they're not groaning when he comes out. But his character right now just feels very stale and one-dimensional because Cody is all about the story. And the story is on pause right now until we get closer to WrestleMania. Or until we find out that he's been traded to SmackDown. They're dragging that shit out as long as possible. Oh, Harold, is AEW getting too many old names like WCW and TNA? Too many old names? I don't think too many old names. I mean, you got to remember when Bischoff and Hogan came in, there was a period of time where, they brought in Jim Neidhart and Val Venus. When you start bringing in people like that, then you got a problem. Bringing in someone like Edge, I think that is a decision where he'll bring enough value to the company that it's acceptable. But it's not like they're making a regular occurrence out of, just debuting WWE guys. They've kind of slowed their roll with that a little bit, I think. I think Edge is actually a great pickup for them. Orhan says, better set of matches in WWE, Bryan or Seth? Seth's had some fantastic matches in the company, so it's hard for me to vote against him. I'm inclined to say Bryan, but Seth has had a lot of great matches though. But I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan. Hype Man Slimy says, "What's up, Solo? Pick one wrestler who is overrated, and one wrestler who is underrated in your perspective." We talking current? We talking all time? Current wrestler who is overrated. I don't know. I have to think about that. Keith Lee is someone who doesn't really get talked about much anymore. He's on the roster there, but there's no buzz around Keith Lee because Keith Lee's not really doing anything. I almost feel like he is underrated. People have forgotten how good he really is just because it's been so long since we've seen him sink his teeth into something important. So I would almost consider him to be underrated right now. Overrated, I don't know. I don't know who would be overrated. Orhan, do you think Seth going on last on night one of WrestleMania can be counted as main eventing the show for him? Do you think we'll eventually get Seth against Roman on night 2? Next year? No. And you got 2 nights of WrestleMania, so yeah, you got 2 main events. It's the way it is from now on. You have 2 nights of WrestleMania. You have the night 1 main event, and you have the night 2 main event. Almost like 2 different shows. So, does it count? Yes, it counts. Are we getting Roman and Seth next year? No. Are we going to get it in the future at WrestleMania? It's possible. I can't tell you that now because how am I supposed to predict what WrestleMania 41 or 42 is going to look like? I have no idea. Yuri says, Gunther against young Ricky Steamboat. No more. Just an awesome idea. God, their chests are going to look like raw meat by the end of those matches. Yuri also says, when I bought a WWF No Mercy copy off of Blockbuster back in the day, Michael Cole was the women's champion when I loaded it up. True story. Yeah, I downloaded this, I guess it's a ROM, but it's this modded game called WWF, is it Legends Challenge 64? If you look it up, there's a website for it. You can download it. It's an application, and it's got a lot of classic wrestlers in it. And I downloaded it today. I don't know how to actually play it. I loaded up, and I mean, I thought I could use my keyboard, but I can't get it to work. So anybody who's familiar with the game, if you've heard about this, if you play it, if you know what I'm doing wrong here, let me know. I mean, I do have a PS5 controller. I do not have an N64 controller. So I don't know that a PS5 controller is going to work with this, but I haven't quite mastered how to actually play the game yet. So if I can, though, who knows? Maybe that could be a sound off gamer. HBKC83, how do you feel about Buck Showalter stepping down / getting fired, or whatever the hell they're calling? All I know is this team needs a change, and I think it's going to take more than just that. But if that's what it takes, then just blow the whole fucking thing up. I'm just so sick of the whole thing. It's probably needed, but honestly, I don't care. Just blow it all up. Brian Alex, do you think Cody should form the Four Horsemen? No. And Yuri says, Edge about to win the TNT title off of Christian. It's very possible. It looks like they're heading in that direction for the TNT title, Edge against Christian. Or, I'm sorry, Adam Copeland. The rated R superstar, Adam Copeland against Christian. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get a TNT title match from them. Is he going to win? Maybe. Yeah, he might. Yeah, I went back and I watched that debut again from last night. It was really well done. Really well done. I'm really glad he has the old music. It just wouldn't be the same. Having him come out to anything other than Metalingus, it would just be weird. Unless they had him come out to like Rob Zombie or something, but even at this point, even that would be weird if he came out to the old Rob Zombie music. So I'm glad that they were able to keep that part of his entrance. Thunder Force, a bigger overachiever in WWE, Daniel Bryan or Becky Lynch? Daniel Bryan. Somebody like Daniel Bryan was never supposed to get over the way that he did. And he went on to, headline WrestleMania and beat Triple H all in the same night, and the whole Yes Movement thing. Becky is another one who I never would have expected her to get over as hot as she did. But Bryan, just his size and just the kind of wrestler that he is, seems to be the antithesis of what you would think Vince McMahon would want to push. And he didn't at that level. He didn't. He got dragged into it because the fans demanded it. But I think that I would consider him to be the bigger overachiever of the two. I need an N64 emulator. I mean, it came as a packaged executable, so it works. The game loads. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Like, it loads. It says push start, and nothing I do on the keyboard works. That's really my only issue. I can play it if I knew how to get the controls to work, but I don't know what I'm doing. So, oh well. Well, look cool anyway. You look cool. Yuri with
Look,
the $2.
everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
Samoa Bro. Yuri says, how could you see Tony Khan using someone like Lashley? Tony Khan using Lashley? Probably poorly. I don't know. I mean, using Lashley, I mean, what would he have him doing? He'd probably have him wrestling for the TNT title also. It's not going to be wrestling for the world title. Probably. I don't know what Tony Khan would have him doing, but he would probably end up just, getting lost in there somewhere, feuding with Powerhouse Hobbs or something, and then we'd see him on television once every blue moon. Edge, though, he made it very clear. Edge is going to be full-time. He's going to be on television every week. Edge is a bigger star than Lashley is, as far as, like in WWE. So I am sure that Tony Khan has a plan in place for how to use Edge. And he'll get plenty of TV time. Lady Fire Panda says, thoughts on idiots calling Edge a traitor for going to AEW and saying that he's going to ruin his legacy by going there. I mean, I think you said it perfectly. They're idiots. They're idiots. These people need to leave their homes and get some fresh air. I think they're oxygen deprived. Some of the comments I saw on Edge's Instagram are just terrifying. That these people exist. These are real people out there who have taken personal offense to this man going and working for another company. I wonder, does this happen? Imagine this happening in real life. Imagine that you work at a gas station. Okay, you're a gas station attendant, nothing wrong with that. You work at a gas station. And let's say that it's a Getty station. And you get another job at another gas station, right? Like down the road, there's like a mobile station. And same job, but you're going to get paid more. And you just feel like, I've done all I can do at this gas station. I'm going to go to this other gas station. I know a couple people who work there. And then the people that would normally have their gas pumped by you at the Getty station find out that you're leaving to go to the mobile station. And they start harassing you and saying, well, how could you do this? You're so disloyal. After all they've done for you here, you're going to go down the road to the other gas station. You'll never pump gas for me again. Those people belong in a psychiatric institution. Like, think of it in the context of almost any other job in the world outside of professional wrestling and how fucking ridiculous it would be. These people are insane. They're out of their minds. Absolutely out of their minds. Edge does not stain his legacy by going to AEW. Edge owes nothing to WWE. He has given his entire career to WWE. He has given plenty of matches. He gave his neck to that company. He came back to the company when Vince McMahon wanted him to. He was this close from going to AEW 4 years ago. He opted to stay with WWE. And he had plenty of great moments, including that big Royal Rumble comeback. And he decided, you know what? I've done all I can do. It was exciting for him to go somewhere else and have all these new people that he can work with. And if you listen to him at the Scrum last night, he's like, I never got to work with Samoa Joe. I never got to work with this guy. I was in the ring tonight shaking hands with Sting. And I see all these young guys on the roster now, too, that I would love to work with. He had the biggest smile on his face. He was so excited. He was like a little kid. Couldn't contain his excitement. And all I saw on his Instagram and on his Twitter post, because he had a whole Twitter like missive that he posted explaining, to people why he went to AEW. And it's like, you're a traitor, you're a turncoat, you're scum. I'll never watch another match of yours again. I mean, seriously, these people give all wrestling fans a bad name. I mean, honestly, like wrestling fans are the fucking just dregs of society. They really are. Edge does not owe you a thing. He does not owe you a goddamn thing. So these people need to get over it and they need to move on because Edge has, and he's in AEW. So deal with it. Tough shit. That's my message to those people. Yuri says, okay, lied, legit last one. Tribalism is stupid. There you go. Yuri, I could not have said it better myself. Tribalism is very stupid. It is very, very, very stupid. We have got... Yuri said, Edge seemed really happy and excited in his presser. Yeah, he was very excited. I went back and watched it when I was done with the stream last night. And again, you couldn't surgically remove that smile from his face. Hydrograd, what's going on, Hydrograd? Thank you for the $10. Buy, sell, rent on these SmackDown stages. The Ovaltron from the Attitude Era, the Giant Fist from the Ruthless Aggression Era, and the pre-COVID stage from October of 2019 to March of 2020. The Giant Fist is number 1, the Ovaltron is number 2, and the pre-COVID one is number 3. Mikey, rather see Benoit against Gunther or Omega against Eddie? Benoit against Gunther. Cameron Spencer, time heals old wounds, so have you changed your opinion on Retribution because I want them to reunite with Ciampa as the leader? No, Retribution sucked. There might have been a good germ of an idea there, but it was so badly botched and terrible. Retribution sucked then, and with the benefit of hindsight, it still sucks. And Dr. Bropio, Edge going to AEW is career suicide. I joke. You better be joking. Not you too. Brumakian Productions, it's amazing how Walter/Gunther lost weight. Yeah, I mean, you see those before and after photos, he looks like two totally different people. But good for him, you know, it's good for his health. And Marquand 1976, remember when CM Punk left in 2014? We paid for your house. Oh, that was the big thing with Punk, yes. We paid for your house. How could you leave? We paid for your house. That's right. You would be nowhere. You would be nothing without us. I'm telling you, man. Sometimes I'm just completely embarrassed to be part of this whole fan community. I really am. Hydrograd says, disagree, Solo. Real gas pumpers use Arco. Shell customers are just internet marks. I don't have any Arcos out here. We have, there's Getty, there's Shell, there's Hess, Citgo. Chris Manson, favorite Madonna songs? Like a Prayer. Always liked that song. I mean, she's had a lot of great songs. But if I had to pick one, I'd go Like a Prayer. All right, so the goal was 400 likes for Be the Booker. And we are at 411. So congratulations. Thank you very much. So Arco is California-based. That's what I thought. It said Arco. I said, what's that? Well, they got the Arco Arena out there, right? Do they still have the Arco Arena? Was that in San Francisco? All right, you hit the goal. Let's be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
Didn't have the greatest night doing Be the Booker last night, so let's try it again. Let's do it all over again and see how we do. We wipe the slate clean. We start from scratch. And we begin with the Tribal Chief. Still out on vacation for a few more weeks. Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Roman Reigns, the second best champion in the company. Roman Reigns is going to defend his undisputed championship. If you can believe it, he's actually going to defend his title. And he will do so against Darby Allin. Or Darby, man. I guarantee you he's got a broken arm. He looked like he knew that arm was broken. So we'll see what the medical update is on him maybe on Wednesday. But Roman Reigns and Darby Allin is a main event. Right? think we can all agree on that. Over on the women's side, we begin with Emma, who was so excited to be going to Australia for Elimination Chamber next year. And then, womp womp. It's not going to work out for her. It's going to be Emma one-on-one with Jamie Hayter. I do miss Jamie Hayter. Doesn't sound like she's going to be back until sometime early next year, maybe February or so. Jamie Hayter and Emma. And now we close things out. Can we do it? Can we go 3 for 3 with quality matches on this stream? Fingers crossed. Here we go. We begin with the Hollywood Blondes, Stunning Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. And they are going to be facing off. Who's it gonna be? Hollywood Blondes against Braun Strowman and Nicholas. Braun Strowman and a 9-year-old child. We almost did it. We were so close. We were so close. But we went, hey, look, 2 for 3, right? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But we did not get the hat trick tonight. Almost. Almost doesn't count, though. I jinxed it. I know. I jinxed it. What can I say? Skip Bayless. What is the worst match that you have ever seen? I don't know. Could I vote on that Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match on Dynamite a few months ago? The worst match I've ever seen. I mean, you're covering a lot of ground there. I mean, there's 2 matches that come to mind. Actually, 3. There's 3 matches that come to mind. One of them was not even really a match, but technically it was. It was on Raw. They had Trump against Rosie. And funny enough, you know who was playing Trump during that match? Ace Steel. I don't remember who was playing Rosie O'Donnell. That was a fucking terrible fucking spectacle. Actually, the best part of that match, Vince McMahon, I believe, was sitting ringside for that match, and the fans started chanting TNA. And apparently he got very upset about that. So we'll put that on the side, because that's, I don't know what that was. The other 2 matches that come to mind were Victory Road, Sting and Jeff Hardy. That was a pay-per-view main event. We all know how that ended, right? Sting and Jeff Hardy. And then there was that awful tag match, probably the worst match in Raw history, which was Bradshaw and Jackie Gata against Harvard Chris and Trish Do I have the teams right? Was it Trish? I think it was JBL and Trish against Harvard Chris and Jackie Gata. And I could have the teams mixed up, but that was a horrible, horrible match. You know it's a bad match when even on commentary, Jim Ross at the end is like, "There's a little bull and shoe ugly." Yeah, to say the least. That was an understatement. I hear TNA is hiring. Yep, that's what Kurt Angle told Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I don't have any openings, but I hear TNA is hiring. We've got Dennis. Says, wow, just scrolled through Edge's Instagram comments, shaking my head. Yeah, I would advise that you don't do that. Your brain may start rotting away if you start doing that. And Chris Manson says, Jamie Hayter against Mercedes Moné will be chills. I do believe that we will get that match next year. I could see that being a Forbidden Door match next year. Although a year is a long time. Who knows who Mercedes will be signed with at that point. She could be full-time in AEW at that point. she could be back in WWE. Who knows? Who knows where she's going to end up? A lot of ankle injuries, right? Mercedes broke her ankle. We just had Adam Cole break his ankle. Kofi Kingston broke his ankle several months ago. AJ Styles had a broken ankle earlier this year. A lot of ankles breaking. Yuri with the $5. Want to just kill a thought with a friend. Where's Jeff Jarrett go down for you? Someone you respect with time or still like ugh? Oh, I never said I didn't have any respect for him. You know, he's a veteran in the business, but, you know, when I see him on television at this point, it's ugh. And a lot of it also has to do just with the fact that every time we see him out there, it's the same shit. It's him, it's Sanjay, it's Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh. There's tons of interference, overbooking to the max. It's not fun. It's just, why is this on my television? Never said I didn't have respect for the guy. Might even try to buy some gold, some Global Force gold from him if he's got some left over. Maybe that could be worth something someday. Yeah, maybe. You want to buy some Global Force gold? He's probably got some gold bars stashed away in his closet like Bob Menendez. All right. I think I've gotten through all of your messages. I want to thank you guys for all of your support tonight, talking Monday Night Raw. The next time I am live with you will be in less than 48 hours. We're going to be talking about a very important episode of AEW Dynamite. It will be the Dynamite debut of Adam Copeland. He is going to give us his mission statement on Wednesday. We already know that Edge is going to be on Dynamite Wednesday. He's going to be on Collision on Saturday. And next Tuesday, because next week Dynamite's on a Tuesday because there's MLB playoffs on Wednesday. So on Title Tuesday next week, Edge is having his first match in AEW. He's going one-on-one with Luchasaurus. And Tony Khan made it very clear at the Scrum, he's full-time. As in, every single week, he is going to be on television. So you're going to be getting a lot of Edge. He's going to be working more full-time in AEW than he has the last 3 years in WWE. And so that starts on Wednesday. We'll talk Dynamite. SmackDown is on Friday. That's the final show before Fastlane. And that's also my birthday. So always looking forward to that. So we'll have some fun on Friday night. And then Saturday is Fastlane. So you got a lot of live coverage coming up here on the channel all throughout the week into the weekend. If you missed it, please go back and check out episode 828 of the podcast. A lot of good stuff covered on there. 2.5 hours worth on the sound off. Be well, stay safe, and come on back here on Wednesday night. Hit that like button on the way out. Thank you to our new channel members. I appreciate it. And we'll do it again for Dynamite.